Welcome back to Death Metal Pug. I'm Pugicide. I want to be a rock star when I grow up. The purpose of this is to have fun and talk about music. If for some reason we can help out your band, project, or business, please reach out to us at deathmetalpug@gmail.com. I'd like to thank JDawg for being on last week's episode. What do you mean showing my pants? Is that high enough? Can you see anything? Is it working? Death Metal Pug went on JDawg, Dead by Dog's YouTube channel. This here is being recorded on the evening of January 10th, Saturday. So we're not exactly sure like when we'll be able to wrap this up and get it posted versus when our recorded Zoom with JDawg will be posted. JDawg runs Hell's Headbangers distribution warehouse, and that's where everybody kind of knows him from, is how I understand it. So I want to be upfront. I don't know JDawg specifically. I've been doing this metal stuff for a very long time, over 30 years. So I was aware of Hell's Headbangers. I feel like I used to run across that more times. Like maybe it was in a magazine or something like that, where I'd pull it up to like buy metal shirts and things like that, right? And there just, quite frankly, wasn't as much stuff, right? Like maybe Amazon wasn't able to pull stuff like that from every record label at that time, kind of thing. I don't honestly watch that much stuff on YouTube, so I don't know JDawg or his program. A couple of the guys on the Death Metal Pug team did, and there's another guy that was at least aware of it, kind of stuff. So they were able to give me a lot of information for it. Obviously, I'm not opposed to the YouTube thing. It's just, pretty busy. And the stuff that I'll say, like, I like is probably what I've watched in the past has been Nate Garrett. He's in Spirit Adrift. And while I don't vibe with that band, I've always liked watching his program. Like, that's the one that I probably will just go ahead and press play on most of the time. Really like the Beer and Metal Snob. Check that show out if you haven't. It's actually the only program we ever reached out to about collaboration, and he's obviously smart enough to like decline a stranger's invitation online. So if it works out, that'd be cool. I just get like a nice vibe out of the guy, I guess. Of course, I've seen like the Banger stuff online. Of course, I've seen the Garza interviews online and watched a few of those. Just depending on the guest, right? I'd say most of them I'm not really immediately drawn to, but yeah, like the Barnes one, for example. I mean, holy cow, that guy doesn't do interviews. The Death Metal Pug team wanted me to mention that they like Thralls of Metal, and then there's another guy. He's pretty vanilla online. It's one of those guys where like he's going over all the like metal releases and stuff, but he just kind of likes them all type of thing. JDawg offers guests, and he has many subscribers to his channel, and he's into extreme music like we talk about. So that was why we did it. There's always a standing offer to go on there, right? Did I bring up everybody you wanted me to? So like JDawg's thing, right, is his whole shtick is like he's kind of mean, right? Oversimplification. I think I did get him to smile once or so, and I'm not sure how it'll be received or how it'll come across, right? So hopefully positively, and we didn't do any harm to the channel or anything like that. I think the guy is likable. He tends to dip into like the tropes and oversimplifications and stuff online, and like kind of like the tough guy metal stuff, which I totally get, right? Like I'm from the 90s. That's when I grew up, if you will. So that whole kind of thing. Quite the discussion. It's hard to like get in words with him because he's very, very like chatting. He's like da 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 da. He's just like kind of blasting through stuff. Did get to know him a little bit. So what else were the takeaways? Gosh. I sometimes I would try to like get him to engage in a certain topic. I'm like, hey, what did you like that came out last year? And then he would kind of like, jump in and like hammer. He would smash like so many little topics into like a little, spitball of a moment that I was like, oh my gosh, I got like a comment for that. I got a comment for that. Like something in my head popped up as kind of a joke, like that kind of thing. for it. I think that what we wanted to do is just make sure that, you know, basically like from an advertising standpoint, that we could get in front of him, say hello. Have nothing against him. The inside scoop is that, you know, he's a good guy, and that whole operation, Hell's Headbangers, we do respect that. I respect that because sending out like obscure stuff that it's not going to sell thousands of things. You're not going to sell thousands of things. You're going to sell hundreds of things, maybe, right? For that kind of extreme music. They do re-releases of stuff, so they are a record label technically. So they just kind of put together the music, build the package, build the art, send it to print, receive it back. So they're keeping track of the logistics of that and fronting the money for something like that. So that's commendable. He really liked to talk about, wanted to talk about his, I asked about it, but he wanted to talk about his concert. So this sounded like his second concert that he was doing. What was the name of that band? God of Denial. I hadn't heard that name in quite some time. What was it? Flesh Grind, that like grindcore band is featured as well. So hey, you know, that's kind of fun. You gotta respect like putting that together to kind of have that music and stuff. Understand he usually has like a eye-popping or attention-grabbing type thumbnail, right? So it can be borderline offensive. The title can be making fun of stuff. So we'll see, like, you know, how he kind of makes fun at us, kind of thing. I did do this shirt on the show. I quickly changed it to it. I thought I was gonna be able to, like, I was like, do you have a song or anything that you know have for the Dead by Dog thing? He was like, no. And I was like, oh, you know, I'm like, always got my crap kind of around. I'm like, let me just try to bang this out. And it, you know, it's the deicide pun, you know, Dead by Dog kind of thing, Dead by Dawn, from Evil Dead, and you know, we all know the shtick. So he said he couldn't hear it, so that kind of, you know, stinks that didn't execute. But I think hopefully we gave a positive impression about background knowledge. This channel, right, is about having fun and talking about music, and a lot of times I won't talk about things I don't care for. So if something came out and I didn't care for it, I'll kind of gloss over it. Or if it's something, you know, pretty well known, or something that is something I've liked in the past and I don't care for it, you know, that will be brought up. But I have a high level of respect for extreme music, how it's put together, how people do it, how much time's involved, and how little reward there it is for everything. So just get to the point. We talked a little bit about, you know, supporting bands and stuff, and that's a lot of times what purchases are about. Supporting the band, you're there, you buy these overpriced albums, you buy the CDs, the shirts, the stuff. I honestly am just, you know, like, Betty doesn't want me to own really any more shirts and stuff like that, and I got just so much shit over the years. I'll just get a patch, or in the case of like Defeated Sanity, they didn't have a patch, so I'll just get a sticker, and then, you know, keep the change, man. So whatever you can afford responsibly, keep the change. I'm very well aware, like, there's not much money in this kind of music, but there's a lot of effort in this kind of music. German shirt this week features Pit Lord. Pit Lord are a barbecue-themed death metal band based out of Davenport, Iowa. We've actually covered them on the show before. If you look back at the Aussie episode, we built their new album in 2025. Jeremy went to the Holiday of Horror show at the end of the year in 2025. This is his annual event that he does. We brought this up before. He met a lot of different people at this thing. It is just a wonderful mix of like weird holiday people, weird holiday bands. Macabre played again, as they mostly do at this event, and that's it. German shirts. German shirts. No like albums or anything really to dip into deeply this time. I've been listening to Uda a bit, Holder. Torture, Undeath, and still just kind of catching up from things I missed in 2025, like Buried Realm and Abstract Illusion. I keep trying to give that a listen because at some point I think it's going to click, but it hasn't for me yet. You'll see from JDawg's interview that we discussed Deicide a lot. That was something I was like, oh man, I was like, we have that in common. You know, I was in high school when Once Upon the Cross came out, right? So I revisited Serpents of the Light, we talked about. That was his favorite album. And Incineratum and the new album as well, because he was like, hey, I'm a fan of that. My schedule is always suspect a bit, if you will, but I do plan to see Uda, it's U-A-D-A, that black metal-ish band. I think they're from Oregon. They're going to be in Chicago in April, so I plan to go see that. I did buy a ticket to Bill Murray in May, so I'm going to try to do that. Had to get way ahead of the Iron Maiden ticket. That's in September, way out in September. And of course, bought a ticket to see Archspire in May, coming off of the new album. Archspire's campaign to self-fund and pre-buy items, that whole process we've been covering, and we were part of that. They were sending out alerts on the Kickstarter about like, hey, it's time to ensure we picked our options, so the different t-shirts and options and stuff like that. This has all been discussed in past videos.
Basically, a whole group of people are front-loading the money so that they can go ahead and make and produce and create and distribute the album and everything. So what they did was they asked for that money through a Kickstarter campaign to fund everything. We had bought into the Archspire independent label campaign, so we got in on the package for the merch and everything for that. Definitely went ahead and bought in on the largest package that was not equipment. Also, we'll add the email that we received on the screen just to prove like we actually did it. I'll keep you up to date on the process. Everything on this album is written and recorded, except the drums. You know, the whole thing is expected delivery is spring of 2026. We contributed, so we bought into a tier 9 package, the new album Liminal Cipher. On June 16th, the drums were completed. I got a notice on June 28th as well. They are charging my credit card. So the album appears to be done. The drums are added on. They were looking for that drummer, right? They've reached their funding, and then they're starting to talk about like, you know, basically my credit card was charged for it, and then what they're gonna do is they're gonna put all that towards like the distribution of their new album. So it's interesting to kind of follow this along. And now they've come through and basically said, hey, we need a response. They're getting to the point to where they want to go ahead and have you make an entry on the stuff that you bought into. So Death Metal Plug bought into or sponsored the new record by being part of like one of the tiers of the campaign. So we had a lot of questions, right? And they sent an email through the Kickstarter and said, okay, now it's time to choose, right? For example, well, the first thing they asked about, like, choose the color of the limited vinyl edition that you want, that kind of thing. So they went with like a red one, what they call Aqua Ghost, which is like a blue kind of aqua color, obviously. There's like a gold one, and what's referred to as green apple one, so it looks like kind of like a half green, half silvery kind of thing. I honestly don't remember which one I picked. And then there was what size and what style of t-shirt you want, right? So Death Metal Plug went ahead and picked the size of the t-shirt, and then the different t-shirts and stuff like that. And then part of the whole thing, you get, I believe, the CD. We'll pop this stuff up. Can't remember if it's a tape, a flag, something like that. So it was time to pick the materials, right? They've recorded the album. They're gonna go ahead and basically like, you know, print it to stuff, start for distribution, and those kind of things.
And it's cool to kind of see it come through. This is probably the longest running thread of a story we've had on this channel, although I don't think anyone cares, but the album release is due to be released on April 10th this year. This gets me to like my last point about how I listen to music and stuff, I guess. I just wanted to point out, I generally don't listen to like singles or pre-release songs. I don't have like, I just don't like spoilers or previews. And believe it or not, I'm like this with like movies or next episodes. Like I always fight with Betty. It's like, she's like, I want to watch the previews for the next episode of whatever it is. Historically, like maybe it's Game of Thrones or something. I'm like, I don't want to see it, right? I don't want to see the preview of the movie for like the comedy movie where like the big, you know, funny moments are just gonna like already be, you know, blown in the preview, if you will. So like when a band like, you know, Archspire or Soen or somebody that I'm jacked about the albums for, like I generally don't listen to it because I think it influences like how you hear the record and you can't unhear it as a total record. Maybe that's just like a nerdy dork thing. I think from the past you've kind of noticed, you know, I'm kind of a playlist guy. I build playlists out for almost like seasons, for like mowing the lawn playlist. I build playlists out for, we talked about like Christmas and Halloween and those kind of things too. I did this all the way like even as a young person, right? So when I found out I could like burn CDs, that was kind of a thing, right? And that, you know, if you're old enough to remember, that was like a real-time process. Burning a CD could take like 60 minutes to get that executed. And I used to build out like just mixtapes. I mean, honest to God, mixtapes, right? And CDs were out, but I had a car that didn't play CDs right. I had a car that played like, you know, like tapes for a long time. So my, you know, cheap cars I got back in the 90s was always like swap it out with a tape deck, right? And tape decks were like kind of cheap, you know, and you could actually do it in the car back then because the dash wasn't like one piece. It was like different pieces. So the radio could be removed without like taking the whole front half of the fucking car off. But I used to like make these mixtapes and stuff. I just love a funny story like back at school one time when like a buddy like borrowed my car and he was taking his girlfriend, I don't even remember where, but I had left like a tape that had songs of Cradle of Filth on it, and that was in the tape deck, and so he had never heard anything like that, anything like black metal or anything like that. So this would have been like probably 1997, 1996, you know, maybe around that time frame. I've always kind of done this. I did it with my CDs too, and I like to do this on playlists occasionally when I have time to build like, basically it's like a best of, or like now instead of like saying like, here's Every Time I Die's best, you know, like best songs that I like for it, what I'll do is I will basically call it a set list now, just build it as a set list. So sometimes it goes in chronological order. So if I'm building something where it covers a big time span and the sound can be different, like the softness levels and, you know, like how the production's done, it's so poppy now. What I'll have to do almost is like do it chronologically, because dropping those songs in and out of those ones with like the big hit, right, where you gotta like turn them up, you know, a couple of notches, like hear them as loud versus, you know, like the modern day ones. Otherwise, it's cool to just kind of like build like what would be an ideal set list, right? Like they'd pop out with this, they do that, they go with this, you know, that kind of thing. So I've done this with a lot of bands over the years, from tapes to CDs to now, you know, electronic music, of course, kind of thing. But I just don't like to hear the previews, singles, like that kind of stuff from songs, because I feel like it messes up like my ability to enjoy it in its proper way. This actually happened last year, although I had listened to it a ton, but it could have been more, I think. But the Rivers and Nile album, like their single songs from that album were released so far in advance. I was like, okay, you know, all right, new singers, I guess. And then this song came out, so they're just kind of like setting the tone for it. I didn't envision they would actually end up on the album, if that makes sense. So I went to listening to them, and then when I did, I'm like, I already know these songs. And do you have that same experience, or are you somehow able to like distance it out where it doesn't come across, you know, that way? Like you have the ability to just like appreciate it, even though you've heard some of the songs in the past. The new Soen album, and I know I'm super dorky for even liking that, but they released 3 singles so far, and they're the first 3 songs on the album. So, like, that's probably a better case, because I could kind of listen to that and then compartmentalize it, especially now where the thing's, you know, almost out. But like a lot of times it's broken up, and I can't like kind of unhear it from the album. It always like sticks different with me, but I've always been real particular about, you know, the music and listening to it and how I do and things like that. Even before I talk to you, I'm gonna hear it, like I mentioned in the past, a couple different ways, a couple different kinds. The car, the headphones or earbuds, you know, and then of course like probably some other speaker or something too. I just generally don't watch much in the way of like videos of things. So like if the band has a music video out, I probably haven't seen it unless it just really is being pounded to me. I don't care for social media that much, to be honest with you, so I don't, you know, like give a shit what bands eat for breakfast or anything else like that, unless it's like really big news or applies to like, you know, something like that to me. And I resent channels that, you know, try to blow up gossip and shit like that. And even if it's under the banner of like, oh, I'm just giving you the news type of shit, we know better than that. It's good to keep an eye on things, but there's a fine line between like this happened and, you know, just kind of like glamorizing it and trying to like, you know, pop off with it, if you will. You know, the videos in the past have been very, very limited that I've listened to. I'll give you an example about like being a little embarrassed about being out of the loop in this case. Like when with the Sang with JDawg and Defeated Sanity and Despised Icon and all that, like, you know, like it was at the merch table and talking to the guy and I'm like, you know, he had short hair and he was like, you know, not completely tattooed up, and I was like, oh, you know, we're talking, I was like, oh, you know, like, are you in the band? Which isn't that uncommon, right? Because, you know, it's not a giant operation. He's like, yeah, you know, I'm the vocalist. I was like, oh, you know, nice to meet you, that kind of thing. But, you know, I just hadn't seen like a bunch of posts about him or something like that to kind of recognize him and those kind of things. So welcome to 2026. We're hoping to have a lot more fun this year. That's it.